Welcome on into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for the top 15 running back rankings. And before we get to them, let's quick run over my honorable mentions. These are my next four on the list. They're kind of just all names that I really like, happen to be in the next four. And that starts off with Brashard Smith of MSU. And he's probably going to be my guy. I'm a big fan of what I've seen so far from him. He'd easily be in my top 15 other years, but this year, the class is stacked, the running back class. The most simple way to put it is to say that he is this year's Tyrone Tracy. That gives you a pretty good idea of what his skill set is. Brings us on to Corey Kiner of Cincinnati. He's definitely my guy because he's not even on some people's draft radar at all. And to me, that's shocking at this point in the process. I think that he has an excellent combination of vision, wiggle, and contact balance. Of all the running backs with 200-plus carries in 2024, he had the third highest elusive rating on PFF. That's just ahead of Cam Skattebo, who's going to be much higher on the list, and just behind Ashton Jeanty, and you can guess where he is on this list. That brings us to Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt of New Mexico and Arizona, and I say that because that'll come up in just a second. He put himself at the forefront of the running back conversation the night of the East-West Shrine Bowl as he tore it up there. I believe, if I recall, he won the MVP award for the East-West Shrine Bowl. Whatever that name might be, it might not be called the MVP. He was unable to play in the 2024 season due to eligibility issues. Unfortunate for him because it appears that he was on a trajectory to going higher than he will probably end up going in the draft this year. And that brings us on to Jordan James, who played at Oregon, and although it might be a mistake to simply compare him to Bucky Irving, drafted out of Oregon last season, it would be fair to say that Oregon has a type and that both Jordan James and Bucky Irving fall within the same bucket within that type. And just to let you know, there are links in the description to my top 50 rankings. My website, where you can find my big mock drafts, are stored, my 1.0, 2.0, the predictive mock drafts, and the Discord channel is also there, where you can find strengths, weaknesses, other notes, all of that other kind of stuff for every player that I have scouted, and those are lists that will continue to be updated over the coming months as we approach the draft. So those are up on, if it wasn't clear, those are up on the Discord channel, where there's a link in the description to the Discord channel to get there, and once you're there, you can check those out for every position. There's a specific channel server that's called like 2025 NFL Draft of the several servers. If for whatever reason, I'm not very familiar with Discord, so if something's not working in the process and you're not finding it, let me know, please. These are not my final rankings. They could be, but they're not necessarily, and I'm very curious to hear your feedback, some of which I already know. I know that you're higher on some of these players than I am, but try to keep your mind open to hear other opinions. A lot of it just comes down to a preference and flavor, and specifically how you value certain traits. You'll notice I have a lot of these guys within, very similar grading here. And that's going to bring us on to my number 15th ranked player out of Rutgers is Kyle Monangai? I'm not 100% sure. He's 5'9", 209 pounds. Anytime you see the asterisk next to the height and weight, that means that is unconfirmed. So we don't know for sure what his height and weight are yet. He is a short area king, both because of his quickness and because of his physicality. Unfortunately, he is a bit of an unnuanced, unrefined, unbridled player. He doesn't have any kind of nuance to his speed. That's always something that I look for to see if guys are taking advantage of, essentially shifting between gears with their speed and not just going up to whatever their highest gear is, whatever their highest speed is, and that's all. The good news is that he plays with a very high motor at a high gear. Currently, I have a 4th round draft grade on him. I look at him as a lesser version of Cam Skattebo, or Bo. Another name, I'm not 100% sure how that's pronounced. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of production in the receiving game, but you can keep him on the field on all downs and in all situations. He can pass protect or rush forward for that very important 1 yard. He makes you want to go run through a brick wall. He's your typical high floor, low ceiling type of prospect. That's going to bring us on to my number 15 prospect in DJ Giddens, coming out of Kansas State, 6'1", 212 pounds, unconfirmed, and he is a wiggly boy. He utilized a combination of contact, balance, and elusiveness to cause 54 missed tackles. That's a top 50 number, and 25 carries of 15-plus yards. That's a top 10 number. One concern I have about his game is kind of him making career decisions that are wise. He's not a bruising back, and generally speaking, whether you're bruising back or not, I admire guys who are going to be willing to lower their shoulder and meet tacklers with a fight, bring the fight to the tackle. However, I fear that Giddens' decision making on when to do so often unnecessarily increases his likelihood for injury. It's just in situations where it's like, just go out of bounds. You've already gotten an 18-yard run. What's one more yard? Not too important here. Currently, I have a late 3rd to 4th round draft grade on him. Specifically, I would say an early 4th round draft grade is, I'm okay not getting him on day 2. He still has room to learn and grow as a rusher, and he has receiving upside as well. So I think there's still room to grow for DJ Giddens. That's going to bring us on to my number 13 back coming out of the University of Central Florida, RJ Harvey, 5'8", 208 pounds, and he's a man of the angles. He knows his math. He's a smart player. As a previous quarterback, you can see how he attacks the field is very cerebral. He has a good understanding of his abilities and how he can utilize them to get to his landmarks, to then get to the next phase in the play. Unfortunately, he does trust his athleticism maybe a little bit too much, and he really swings for the home runs a little too often, and he needs to learn to take what's given to him more often. Something that you'll see come up with several players here. Take the dirty yards sometimes. It's very important to be able to do that if we're going to trust you for 3 downs especially. Negative plays are drive killers, and you'll find yourself on the bench sooner than later if you have too many of those. Currently, I have a late 3rd to early 4th round draft grade on him, and I lean towards round 3 for Harvey, if you have a plan for him, that is, really more specifically. I spoke about him in a fair amount of detail in my 5 unique prospects video. I think that's what it's called, something like that, which I released last month. If I remember to, I will drop a link to that in the description, or I will put a card on the screen like right now where you can find to that video. But in one sentence, he is a leader who can be used as a Swiss Army knife, along with the fact that, straight up, he's also a good running back. That's going to bring us on to my number 12 running back out of the Oklahoma State, Ollie Gordon II, 6'1", 233 pounds. That is confirmed. And currently I have a 3rd round draft grade on him. Generally speaking, he's a good running back who's extra enticing due to how fast he is at his size. That said, he's not explosive or quick, and nor does he have high top-end speed. He's a scheme-specific running back to a gap-style run scheme. He could make a great 1A to a 1B, much like my comp for him, David Montgomery, does in Detroit. Ollie had first-round hype coming into this season after a fantastic 2023 year. The question is, what happened in 2024? Was it A, a minor but nagging injury that held him back, or was it B, attitude/effort concerns? I've heard rumblings of each, and teams know the real answer to that question that will impact his draft position, for better or for worse. It's going to bring us on to my number 11 running back. Coming to us out of Auburn is Jarquez Hunter. Jarquez Hunter? I don't know. Jarquez Hunter, 5'9", 212 pounds. That is confirmed. And currently I have a 3rd round draft grade on him. To start, not unlike Derrick Henry or Nick Chubb, he may never be a great asset as a receiver. However, he does a great job of bouncing off of would-be tacklers, and often you see him accelerate right past second-level defenders. As a result, he finished 12th in college football for carries of 15-plus yards, with 23 such rushes. And as a reminder, Jarquez is not some sort of scat back. He's a tough-nosed downhill runner, which I think makes some of those numbers, some of that analysis, just a little bit more impressive with that understanding. And that's going to bring us on to my number 10 back, Damien Martinez, 5'11", 226 pounds, out of the University of Miami. And for a 226-pound man, he is surprisingly light on his feet. I'm not saying that he's a shifty back, but he does have a spring in his step along the line of scrimmage, and he can twinkle-toe along the sideline for additional yardage as well. He is probably never going to be a plus in the receiving game, and despite his size, his pass protection still needs some work. He's just too passive, despite his physical play style. He needs to get more engaged, maybe trust his pass protection skills a little bit more. Currently, I have a third-round draft grade on him. His tape looks like what I wanted Braylon Allen's tape to look like last year. One thing that I noticed was that he had a very uneven 2024 season, and I was curious if maybe there were some character concerns, some effort concerns behind that. So in my search of trying to figure out what happened during the first half of 2024, if there was a reason behind that, what I did find was that he had a DUI in November of 2023. So he's going to have some questions to answer in order to get drafted on day 2. But if he has the right answer to those questions, look for him on day 2, and deservingly so. I do think he's a back who you'll get what you see out of him, and that's good enough, I think. That's going to bring us on to my number 9 back out of Texas is Jaydon Blue, 6 foot, 201 pounds, unconfirmed. And here's a guy who does get the dirty yards, baby. The reason this is my strength is that Jaydon isn't some sort of power back that, like Damien Martinez, who of course they get you the dirty yards. He's not small, but he is a speed back. Some might think that he's just a third down receiving back, but I think that he's much more. So his willingness to put his shoulder down and get the 1 to 3 yard gains was highly impressive to me. Unfortunately, he has not gotten on the field much at all. As far as I'm aware, he has 5 starts, less than 250 snaps to his name over the past 2 years. There isn't a lot of tape on him. Currently, I have a late second to early third round draft grade on him. I just watched Jaydon right before doing my prep for this video, despite having done my running backs first, so over a month ago probably. And holy cow, do I love the man, and I had to get him ranked for this video. Talk about a draft sleeper. Obviously, he is getting talked about to some extent. That's how I heard about him and knew that I had to watch him. He takes all the right angles, he doesn't waste a step while out in the open field, and he combines quickness and speed to hit the home run, as in he uses quickness to get into an area where he can now use his speed to go all the way. And that's not including the fact that he's a fantastic receiver. It's a gamble, but I'm willing to bet on Jaydon Blue pretty high up in this draft. He is someone who looked to be higher up in my final rankings, if possible, if I can get myself to do so. That's going to bring us on to Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State, 6 foot, 218 pounds, one of the bigger names of this draft, and I like how effortlessly he gets up to speed, really is what it is. His acceleration through the hole is something to be really proud about. He has a high motor, he plays with tenacity, and he gets up to speed effortlessly. His elusive rating, unfortunately, and his yards after the contact were both below average to well below average in 2024, and if you go back a year or even 2 to his first 2 years in college at Ole Miss, those numbers are better, but they're still not good. Currently, I have a late second to early third round draft grade on him. He's coming off of a down year, and to be clear, he still had a very productive year. He's not going to be a plus in the receiving game or in pass protection, or he currently isn't at least. He reminds me of Blake Corum from just a year ago, where I do see an NFL back when I watch him. But I also question how reliant that they are on their offensive line. How much can they create on their own? I think he's a good, solid running back. However, I'm not sold that he's more than that. And that is going to bring us on to my number 7 running back in Dylan Sampson, 5'11", 201 pounds. That is unconfirmed. And he has high-end receiving upside and is a solid pass blocker. Now I'll talk about that weakness, his lack of patience, a little bit in my write-up here. Currently, I have a late second to early third round draft grade on him. He is not simply a third down receiving back, but he's not a bell cow back either, somewhere in between. Now, when we talk about that lack of patience, he fails to allow his blockers to help him in the open field. He also fails to help set them up, put them in a good position to land their blocks. But he's also so fast that his aggressive play style pays off too. So there's a little bit of a give and take with that portion of the game. But I would like to see him utilize those blockers better and put them into good positions as well to help him. He's going to be a great change of pace back, and he's shown that he's still developing and he has some room to grow yet. Athletically, he's a very exciting prospect, and he shows a lot of promise to be successful in a rotation for a long time. And that is going to bring us on to my number 6 running back out of Iowa. We've got Kaleb Johnson, 6 foot, 225 pounds, unconfirmed. And yes, if you notice, I did take a note out of the Sour Patch Kids marketing campaign here. First, he's vicious, then he's finessed. When he sees the hole, he hits it with violence. Once he makes it into the second or third level, despite not being very elusive when he's at or behind the line of scrimmage, he is quite shifty once he's out in the open field and has a little bit more room to work with. The weakness here for him is kind of more so letting you know a little bit about who he is as a running back, is that he's not one of the most exciting backs. He doesn't have home run speed, and he's not an incredible receiver or pass blocker. Currently, I have a late second to early third round draft grade on him. He should go to a zone heavy blocking scheme, as that's not only where he is going to be the most comfortable, but that's also where his skill set is going to be best put to use. He's not a slam dunk 3-down back, but he has enough that he'll get the opportunities to show that he is. And I tend to think that he probably is, but if that was like a slam dunk thing, I think that would have been enough for me to just put a straight second round draft grade on him. But there are a few concerns in terms of that portion of his game. That's going to bring us on to Devin Neal, 5'11", 220 pounds, out of Kansas. Definitely my guy. I love Devin Neal, and I love the way that he plays. He has great vision, and when you combine that with his excellent start-stop ability, sometimes he looks like he's Neo from The Matrix. I wrote on his notes that the world can be falling apart around this kid, and he'll dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge his way into plus yardage. Another one of those guys where you'd just like to see him lower his shoulder, get the 1 or 2 yards here. I don't think I need to go into too much more detail about that. However, I will say maybe the reason he's a little bit dancy behind the line of scrimmage is because of his offensive line. They did him no favors in 2024. Currently, I have a late second, early third round draft grade on him. I admire how he runs. He often disappears behind his blockers because his pad level is so low, and he follows his blockers really well. He's a running back that, if I'm a coach, I look at him and I say, I want to harness what he has. I want to put this kid in a position to succeed. I want to give him a better offensive line is what I'm saying, and then get the most out of him, because I think that his ceiling is pretty darn high. There's, I think, a lot to like about Devin Neal. Like, once again, he is like my guy. Him and Jaydon Blue, I think, are the two biggest my guys of this draft. And I am also a fan of Cam Skattebo, but I don't think anybody can call him a my guy, because a lot of people are big fans of Cam Skattebo, or Skattebo, I'm sorry, coming to us out of Arizona State. Somebody, if you know for sure, let me know. Skattebo, which one is it? Because I feel like I've heard both, and I'm just not sure. But he's 5'11", 216 pounds, and he has the third most yards after contact. Talking about his college numbers here, of course, this last year in 2024. Second most missed tackles forced. 15th most carries of 15-plus yards, and a 1.92 yard per route run was the 7th highest among college running backs. He can do it all. He's efficient whenever he's on the field, regardless of what's happening, what down it is, what situation it is. The question is he going to be able to be on the field long enough for you and give you that high-end efficiency all the time? Because there are some questions about his durability. His style of play is punishing, not only on those that he plays up against, but also for himself as well. His abilities even seem to diminish to some extent within games as they go along. Currently, I have a second-round draft grade on him. He's the type of running back that you watch and you say, I want him in my locker room. He's a tone setter. He's arrogant. He is angry. He is wild. He's not perfect. I like to comp him to being an Isaiah Pacheco 2.0. He'll find the most success in a gap-heavy run scheme at the next level. That's going to bring us on to my number 3 running back here. Out of Ohio State is TreVeyon Henderson, another one of those bigger-name guys. 5'10", 207 pounds, unconfirmed, and he plays with passion. I like how he plays. He tries to get the most out of every play. His feet are always churning, and he strings together moves nicely in an attempt to maximize the return on his opportunities. Question is, how many opportunities are you going to be able to get out of him? A lot of people have concerns about him not being a bell cow back. Currently, I have a second-round draft grade on him. I felt that he was at his best when he flew through the gaps as more of a north-to-south runner, which would be a little bit of a surprise to some people, and maybe it's just a preference of what I saw from him. But he has the explosiveness to get to the edges, which you want and need from a guy of his skill set. He is a bit of a speed back at the next level. But I think that you can rely on him as a 3-down back. It's great if he's in a position where he can be a team's 1B to their 1A, as a change of pace speed back with third down ability. But I think that he's experienced enough that if you need him to get those dirty yards, stop big play hunting, which is a bit of an issue that you see on his tape, and take what's given to him at a higher rate, I think that he would be willing to do that. I think that he is a smart player and a more complete back than some people give him credit for. So that's some of the things I like from him. It took me a couple times of watching him to get on board with him. Same with a couple of other guys. My initial rankings, Cam Skattebo was number 3 and Devin Neal was number 4, but I did raise both of the Ohio State guys in my as I updated them once, and I'll go through and do one more update with the running backs again. But sometimes you just have to see these guys when you see them in different orders, it can change your opinions on them, and I think that was what kind of happened with them. That's going to bring Omarion Hampton. He is coming to us from UNC into the NFL. 6 foot, 220 pounds, unconfirmed. And, I mean, look, some guys are just, they're pros, already at the college level. And that's what he is. He's a ready-to-go product. This is what he's supposed to be in life. He is supposed to be he's supposed to be a running back. He's natural at the position. Weakness, he runs too upright. Okay, so typically, this is an easy piece of analysis to make on a lot of guys, is that they need to get their pad level lower, and it's definitely true that Omarion runs high. However, something that I noticed is that it may be intentional with him. He appears to deploy several different running styles depending on what he's doing and what he's seen and the play call, and I think that he actually just has a plan. Currently, I have a second round draft grade on him, and I probably will change it to a late first, early second. My comp for him is a smaller, more explosive Najee Harris. Now, I say explosive, but I don't want to misrepresent Hampton. He is not ultra wiggly, and nor does he have excellent home run speed. That's his biggest knock. It's just, he's not some sort of ultra athlete here. But he does a lot of the small stuff really well, and that's going to bring us on to our number 1 running back prospect in Ashton Jeanty, coming to us out of Boise State, 5'9", 216 pounds, not yet confirmed there. And this guy can produce. He had elite production. He had elite PFF grading. He was first in yards after contact, 1,970 of those. He was first in missed tackles forced, 151 of those. He was first in carries of 15-plus yards, 36 of those in 2024. Now, look, he is not perfect, okay? He's still got some things he can work on, and I'd say the biggest portion of his game that he's going to want to improve upon and maybe has the most room to grow is going to be as a pass blocker. He's still a work in progress there. It's not something that he can't improve, however, though. He has enough going for him there that he should be able to improve that portion of his game. Currently, I have a top 8 grade on him, and that's in line with consensus. I don't really have a top 5 or a top 10 grading. It's technically a top 8 on my scale. My favorite skill is when rushers are able to make the slightest of adjustments to brush off contact, making it appear as if they can run right through contact without slowing down. And Ashton Jeanty has barrels and barrels of that skill set. He also has a 4th gear, which I don't have anyone else with having more than 3 gears. But he has a 4th gear that he's able to hit into, and that's another one of my favorite skills, is nuanced usage of speed. So, yeah, I'm a believer in Ashton Jeanty. I think that he is pretty fantastic. And just to say where that 4th gear came from, I think the first 2-3 gears are easy for you to understand. 3rd gear is kind of that home run speed. Having 2 gears is just having a little, at least some sort of nuance to your speed, not just going straight up to your highest speed and never doing anything with that. So he's got all of that, but then he has this like instinctive gear when a really fast guy is chasing him down, where he can hit that next speed. He already looks like he's at top speed, but then I don't know, something kicks in, a little extra adrenaline, and he hits a 4th gear, which is once again the highest gear for me in humans, I guess. So there you go. That is it for the running back prospect rankings. Let me know what you thought. Thank you very, very much, and we'll come out with another position soon. But looking forward to the combine soon. Peace out, guys.